In the quiet hum of the Galactic Observatory aboard the Zenthari royal vessel, Princess Lyra watched the human male through the one-way glass. He was not like the others. Most humans were loud, chaotic, driven by emotion she could barely comprehend. But this one, Daniel, moved with calm purpose. His hands, though calloused from labor on his colony world, handled delicate xenobotanical samples with surprising care. His eyes held a depth that intrigued her far more than any warrior's boast or diplomat's polished speech. Lyra had seen countless species across the 7 sectors. She'd witnessed hive minds merge in silent unity, energy beings dance through nebulae, and crystalline entities sing in frequencies that bent time. Yet none stirred the ancient pulse in her core like Daniel did. It was illogical. Humans were fragile, short-lived, biologically inefficient. Their planet was barely spacefaring, their technology crude by Zenthari standards. But something about Daniel's quiet resilience, his gentle patience with the alien, Flora, and the way he hummed old Earth tunes while working, it resonated with a part of her that had long been dormant. Her advisors had warned her. "Princess," Elder Voss had said, his voice crackling with static disapproval, "humans are incompatible. Their biology is incompatible. Their lifespans are incompatible. Their very souls are incompatible." But Lyra had stopped listening. She had felt the pull, the undeniable gravitational shift within her own being whenever Daniel was near. It was more than attraction. It was recognition. One evening, as Daniel worked late cataloging a newly discovered Lumina vine, Lyra entered the lab. She did not announce herself. She simply stood in the doorway, her silver skin shimmering faintly under the soft lights, her long, opalescent hair catching the glow like spun moonlight. Daniel looked up, startled, but not afraid. He offered a small, warm smile that made her heart thrum in a rhythm unfamiliar to her species. "Princess Lyra," he said, setting down his datapad. "I didn't expect you here." "I wish to see you," she replied, her voice melodic but steady. She stepped closer, her bare feet silent on the cool floor. "You care for these plants as if they were your own children." "They are," he said simply. "Every living thing deserves respect." She studied his face, the lines around his eyes from years of sun and worry, the kindness in his gaze, the strength in his jaw. "Daniel," she began, her voice dropping to a near whisper, "I have watched you. I have listened to you. I have felt something I cannot explain." He frowned slightly, not in confusion but in concern. "Are you all right?" "I am more than all right," she said, stepping even closer until only a breath separated them. "I feel whole when you are near, and empty when you are not. This is not normal for my kind. We do not bond so easily. We do not feel so deeply without reason." Daniel swallowed, his eyes searching hers. "Princess Lyra, I don't understand." "Then let me make it clear," she said, her voice firm now, filled with a resolve that surprised even her. "I wish to marry you." The words hung in the air like stardust. Daniel blinked, stunned. "Marry me? But I'm human. You're a Zenthari princess. It's impossible." "Nothing is impossible," she said, "if the will is strong enough. And my will is absolute." He ran a hand through his short, dark hair. "Even if we wanted to, our biology, we can't even reproduce," she finished for him. "Yes, that is the great barrier. But what if I told you it is not as impossible as they say?" Daniel's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Lyra turned and walked to the far side of the lab, where a sealed containment unit held a rare specimen, a glowing, pulsating orb known as the Heartseed. It was a relic of the ancient Zenthari, a biological marvel thought extinct for millennia. "Long ago," she began, "before my people mastered genetic engineering and artificial gestation, we reproduced through a sacred union. It required not just physical compatibility, but emotional and spiritual resonance. The Heartseed was the catalyst. It could bridge biological gaps, harmonize incompatible genomes, and awaken dormant potential in both partners." "You have a Heartseed?" Daniel asked, awe in his voice. "I found it," she said, turning back to him, "hidden in the ruins of our ancestral moon. I kept it secret, not knowing why. Now I understand. It was waiting for you." "But how would it work?" he asked, stepping closer. "The heartseed responds to true connection," she explained. "If two beings share a bond that transcends species, it will activate. It will rewrite our biology just enough to allow life to form, a child that carries both our essences. But it requires sacrifice. The process is dangerous. It drains life force from both parents. Many have tried and failed. Some have died." Daniel didn't flinch. "You'd risk your life for this?" "I would risk everything," she said softly. "Because without you, my life is already half empty." He looked at her for a long moment, his human eyes filled with a mixture of fear, wonder, and something deeper, something that mirrored her own longing. "Then I'll do it," he said finally. "If you're willing to take that risk, so am I." The news spread quickly through the Zinthari ship. Whispers turned to shouts, then to formal protests. Elder Voss summoned Lyra to the council chamber, his face grim. "You cannot be serious," he said, his voice low and sharp. "A human? A species that has not even unified its own world? You would bind our royal bloodline to such fragility?" "Daniel is not fragile," Lyra replied, standing tall. "He is strong in ways you do not understand. He sees life where others see only resources. He heals where others destroy. That is true strength. Strength does not matter if your child dies before it takes its first breath," Voss snapped. "Or if you die trying to create it." "Then let it be so," Lyra said calmly. "But I will not deny what my heart knows to be true." Meanwhile, Daniel faced his own doubts. Alone in his quarters, he stared at the small photo of his family back on Earth. His mother, his younger sister, both long gone. He had come to the stars seeking peace, not love. Certainly not a love that could rewrite the laws of biology. Yet every time he thought of walking away, he remembered Lyra's eyes. How they held galaxies and gentleness in equal measure. How she looked at him not as a curiosity but as an equal. He visited the ship's medical bay where Dr. Elena, a human xenobiologist assigned to the joint mission, ran tests on him. "Your vitals are stable," she said, frowning at the screen. "But if what the princess says is true, this heartseed process could overload your cellular structure. Your body isn't built for Zinthari bioenergy." "I know," Daniel said quietly. "But I can't say no to her." Elena sighed. "Love makes fools of us all," she muttered. But there was no judgment in her voice, only sadness and a flicker of hope. As the days passed, Lyra and Daniel spent more time together. They walked through the ship's biogardens, where earth flowers grew beside Zinthari sky blooms. They shared meals, Daniel teaching her to eat with utensils, Lyra showing him how to sip nutrient nectar without choking. They talked about their worlds, their fears, their dreams. He told her about oceans and forests. She described nebula nurseries where stars were born in silence. One afternoon, as they sat beneath a canopy of glowing vines, Lyra asked, "Do humans believe in fate?" "Some do," Daniel said. "Others think we make our own paths." "I used to believe in destiny," she admitted, "that my life was written in the stars long before I was born. But meeting you, it feels like I rewrote the stars myself." He smiled. "Maybe it's both. Maybe the stars wrote the beginning, and we write the rest." Their bond deepened, unnoticed by the ship's sensors, but felt by every crew member. Even the sternest Zinthari guards softened when they saw the princess laugh, a sound rarely heard in the royal corridors. Daniel, once an outsider, began to feel like he belonged. But the council would not be ignored. They demanded a demonstration. If the heartseed was real, prove it. Lyra agreed, though she knew the risks. The activation could not be forced. It required genuine unity. Still, she and Daniel stood before the council in the great chamber, the heartseed floating between them in a containment field. Elder Voss watched with narrowed eyes. "Begin," he commanded. Lyra took Daniel's hands. They closed their eyes. She focused on everything she felt for him. The calm he brought her, the way he saw beauty in broken things, the quiet courage in his soul. Daniel thought of her grace, her fire, her willingness to defy an entire empire for a chance at something real. The heartseed pulsed once, then again. A soft golden light spread from it, wrapping around their joined hands. The council gasped. The light grew brighter, warmer, filling the room with a hum that vibrated in their bones. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Then, just as suddenly, the light faded. The heartseed dimmed, returning to its dormant state. Nothing else happened, Voss sneered. A trick of light, nothing more. But Lyra and Daniel knew better. They had felt it, the spark, the connection, the first whisper of life stirring in the void between their species. It was not proof enough for the council, but it was enough for them. That night, Lyra made her decision. She would not wait for permission. She would not beg for approval. She would follow her heart, no matter the cost. She found Daniel in the observatory, staring at a distant blue dot. Earth. "Are you ready?" she asked. He turned, his eyes full of determination. "I've never been more ready for anything in my life." They did not know what lay ahead. Pain, death, failure, all were possible. But so was wonder. So was love. So was a child who would carry two worlds in its blood. And for Lyra the ceremony began in secret, deep within the oldest part of the Zenthari ship. A chamber untouched for centuries, its walls lined with living crystal that remembered every heartbeat of the royal line. Only two witnesses stood with them. Dr. Elena, who had come to care for Daniel like a brother, and Kael, a young Zenthari guard who believed in love more than law. The heartseed hovered between Lyra and Daniel, glowing faintly as if holding its breath. Lyra wore no crown, only a simple circlet of woven starlight fibers. Daniel wore his usual work tunic, clean and pressed, his hands steady despite the weight of what they were about to do. They stood barefoot on the cool floor, palms pressed together, eyes locked. "This is not just a joining of bodies," Lyra whispered, "but of souls." Daniel nodded. "I know." She began the chant in the old tongue, her voice rising like wind through ancient trees. The heartseed responded instantly, pulsing brighter with each word. Golden light spilled from it, wrapping around their arms, their chests, their faces. Warmth spread through Daniel's veins, strange, electric, alive. He felt his cells humming as if waking from a long sleep. Then came the pain, sharp, sudden, like fire in his bones. He gasped but did not pull away. Lyra's eyes flared silver, her skin shimmering with inner light. Tears of liquid starlight rolled down her cheeks. The heartseed sank into their joined hands, vanishing into their flesh. A shockwave of energy burst outward, cracking the crystal walls but leaving the two untouched. When it was over, they collapsed into each other's arms, trembling, breathless. The chamber was silent except for their ragged breathing. Dr. Elena rushed forward, scanner in hand. "Your biosigns are changing," she said, stunned. "Both of you. It's working." In the days that followed, their bodies began to shift. Daniel's skin took on a faint pearlescent sheen in low light. Lyra's silver tone warmed with subtle human undertones. They shared dreams, visions of a child with eyes like twilight and hair that shimmered like dawn. The bond was real. The heartseed had accepted them. But the council soon discovered what they had done. Alarms blared. Guards stormed the chamber. Elder Voss himself appeared, his face dark with fury. "You have defiled our bloodline," he hissed. "You will be stripped of your title, Lyra. And the human, he will be sent back to his primitive world." "You cannot separate us," Lyra said, standing tall despite her exhaustion. "The bond is sealed. To tear us apart now would kill us both," Voss scoffed. "Then let it be so. Better dead than dishonored." But before he could order their arrest, the ship's main systems flickered. Red lights flashed. A voice echoed through the corridors. "Unknown vessel approaching. Weapons charged. Identity Cathar raiders. The Cathar were slavers, scavengers who preyed on weakened ships. They must have detected the energy surge from the ceremony. Now they saw the Zenthari vessel as vulnerable. Panic spread. The council froze, but Lyra did not. "Ready the shields," she commanded, her voice ringing with authority. "Deploy defense drones. Daniel with me." He didn't hesitate. Though he had no military training, he knew the ship's layout better than most. He had helped design its bio-support systems. Together, they raced to the command deck. Lyra took the helm. Daniel rerouted power from non-essential systems to reinforce the shields. "Why are you helping?" a guard asked, stunned. "Because this is my home now," Daniel said simply. The battle was fierce. Cathar ships swarmed like insects, firing plasma bolts that scorched the hull. Xanthari defenses held, but barely. Then a critical hit struck the engine core. The ship shuddered. Life support began to fail. "We're losing oxygen in sectors 4 through 7, an officer reported. Daniel's eyes lit up. "The biogardens, they produce oxygen. I can reroute the airflow through the plant filtration system. It'll buy us time." "Do it," Lyra ordered. While she coordinated the defense, Daniel worked feverishly in the engineering bay, splicing cables, bypassing damaged circuits, using his knowledge of xenobotany to integrate living filters into the ventilation system. It was a human solution. Improvised, messy, but brilliant. Oxygen levels stabilized. Inspired, the Xanthari fighters pushed back. The Cathar, sensing stronger resistance than expected, broke off their attack and fled into the void. Silence returned. The ship was battered but intact. And in that moment, something shifted among the crew. They looked at Daniel not as an outsider, but as one of their own. Even Elder Voss stood quietly, his anger replaced by reluctant respect. In the aftermath, Lyra called a full council meeting. She stood before them. Daniel at her side, her voice clear and strong. "You said humans were weak," she declared. "But it was a human who saved this ship. It was his mind, his heart, his courage that gave us victory. If that is weakness, then I welcome it." No one argued. As weeks passed, Lyra's pregnancy became undeniable. Her form glowed with a soft inner light. Daniel never left her side. He read to her from old Earth books, sang lullabies his mother once sang, and held her hand through the waves of fatigue and strange dreams the heartseed sent them. Daughter Elena monitored the child's development with awe. "It's growing faster than human or Xanthari norms," she reported. "Its cells contain both DNA structures perfectly balanced." "It's a miracle," Lyra smiled. "Not a miracle, a choice." One evening, as they rested in the biogarden, Daniel asked, "Are you scared?" "Terrified," she admitted, "but also full of hope. This child will be the first of its kind. It will carry your kindness and my strength. It will know both Earth and the stars, and we'll be there for it," he said, squeezing her hand. "No matter what." News of the coming birth spread beyond the ship. Other species took notice. Some sent messages of support. Others warned of unnatural unions. But Lyra and Daniel paid them no mind. Their world had narrowed to each other and the life growing between them. Then came the day the child was ready. Labor was unlike anything recorded in Xanthari or human history. Lyra floated in a pool of warm, bioluminescent fluid, her body radiating light. Daniel stayed beside her, whispering words of comfort, his human touch grounding her as waves of energy surged through her. When the child emerged, the chamber filled with a soft golden glow. It cried, a sound like wind chimes and ocean waves, and the very air seemed to sing in response. It was a girl. Her skin shimmered with hues of silver and warm brown. Her eyes opened, deep, intelligent, holding the calm of Earth and the mystery of deep space. Tiny fingers curled around Daniel's thumb as Lyra wept with joy. Elder Voss entered the birthing chamber unannounced, all tensed, expecting anger. But he only stared at the child, his stern face softening. Slowly he knelt. "She is whole," he murmured. "Not half of anything. Whole." He placed a hand over his heart, a Xanthari sign of deep respect. "Forgive me, Princess. I was wrong," Lyra nodded. "Love teaches even the wisest." In the days that followed, the child, named Sela, meaning bridge in the old tongue, became a symbol. Diplomats from across the galaxy requested audiences. Scientists begged to study her biology, but Lyra refused. "She is not a specimen," she said firmly. "She is our daughter." Daniel built a small cradle from reclaimed shipwood and Xanthari vine, carving tiny stars into its sides. He rocked Sela to sleep each night, singing songs of rivers and mountains she would one day see. Lyra watched them, her heart full. She had given up nothing. She had gained everything, a partner, a child, a future woven from two worlds. One night, as the three of them floated near the observation deck, watching a nebula bloom in silent color, Daniel whispered,
"Do you think she'll change the galaxy?"
Lyra smiled, holding Sela close. She already has. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by stars and love, the impossible had become real, not through war or power, but through a simple, brave choice to believe in something greater than fear. The story of Lyra and Daniel would be told for generations, not as a tale of royalty or aliens, but as a reminder that the strongest bonds are those that cross divides, heal wounds, and create new light in the darkest corners of the universe. And it all began with a question: how can I marry you? The answer, they learned, was not in words, but in action, in trust, in sacrifice, and in the quiet courage to love across the stars. Sayla's second year brought changes no one expected. She began to dream not just in images, but in places. One morning she woke crying, clutching her chest. "The red moon is sad," she whispered. Lyra and Daniel exchanged worried glances. There was no red moon in their charts, but Sayla insisted. She drew it in the air with glowing fingers, a world cracked and dry, its surface scarred by old wars. "They are alone," she said. "They forgot how to sing." Dr. Elena ran deep scans. "Her brain is linking to unknown frequencies," she reported. "It's like she's picking up psychic echoes from distant worlds." Lyra knew what it meant. The heartseed had not just created life, it had opened a door. Sayla was becoming a bridge not only between species, but between worlds. They decided to follow her visions. The ship changed course, diving into uncharted space. After 3 weeks of travel, they found it. A small planet orbiting a dying star, its surface rust-red, its atmosphere thin. No signals, no life signs, yet Sayla pointed to a valley and said, "They are sleeping." They landed carefully. The air was cold and still. Daniel carried Sayla on his shoulders as they walked through ruins of stone towers, half buried in dust. Lyra felt it too, a faint hum beneath the ground like a heartbeat slowed by time. In the center of the valley they found a chamber. Its walls were covered in carvings of beings with large eyes and slender limbs, their hands raised to the sky. At the center lay a pool of black water, perfectly still. Sayla stepped forward, unafraid. She knelt and touched the surface. The water rippled, then glowed. From the depths rose a figure, translucent, shimmering, made of memory and light. It was one of the ancient ones, the last of its kind, kept in stasis by sorrow. "We lost our song," the being whispered, its voice echoing in their minds. "When the wars came, we stopped singing. Without song, we faded." Sayla looked up at her parents, then back at the spirit. She began to hum, the same lullaby Daniel sang to her at night, woven with the Zenthari star chant. The sound filled the chamber. The black water turned clear. The spirit's form grew brighter. One by one, more figures rose from the ground, not as ghosts, but as living beings, their bodies reforming from the planet's core energy. The red moon was waking. The ancient ones called themselves the Veli. They had once been great singers, their voices shaping weather, healing land, and calming stars, but fear had silenced them. Now a child from 2 worlds had given them back their song. They offered Sayla a gift, a seed from their world's heart tree, said to grow only where harmony exists. Sayla accepted it, cradling it like a promise. Back on the ship, the seed sprouted overnight in the biogarden, its leaves shimmering with copper and gold. It pulsed gently as if breathing with the ship itself. But peace was fragile. News came from the Galactic Council. A new faction had risen, calling themselves the Pure Lineage. They claimed Sayla's existence threatened the natural order. Worse, they had stolen old Zenthari war tech, biodisruptors designed to sever genetic bonds. They planned to target her, Elder Voss warned. Not to kill, but to unravel her, to make her human and Zenthari parts reject each other. Daniel's blood ran cold. "We can't let that happen." Lyra's eyes hardened. "Then we do not hide. We show them what she truly is." They called a gathering, not on their ship but on neutral ground. The Ring of Truce, a floating station where all species could meet without weapons. Sayla would speak for herself. The day arrived. Hundreds gathered, humans, Zenthari, Veli, even former Void Weavers. The Pure Lineage sent envoys cloaked in white, their faces hidden. Sayla walked alone to the center of the ring, small but steady. She wore no armor, carried no weapon, only the Veli seed hung around her neck, glowing softly. "You say I am wrong?" she began, her voice clear and calm. "But I am not broken. I am whole. My father taught me to care for small things, the roots of plants, the wings of insects. My mother taught me to listen, to stars, to silence, to hearts. From them, I learned that life is not about being the same, It is about choosing to grow together. She held up her hand. Golden light spread from her palm. Not as a threat, but as an invitation. If you fear me, come closer. Feel what I feel. See what I see. One of the pure lineage envoys stepped forward, trembling. He removed his hood, revealing a young Xanthari male barely older than Daniel had been when they met. I was taught that mixing bloodlines brings weakness, he said, voice shaking. But my sister married a human. Their child saved our village during the drought. She healed our crops with songs I did not understand. Tears filled his eyes. I came here to hate you. But I think I came to heal. He knelt before Sela. Others followed. Even the hardliners lowered their heads, not in shame, but in wonder. The pure lineage fractured that day, not by force, but by truth. Afterward, as the ship sailed toward a new sector, Daniel asked Sela, "How did you know they would listen?" "Because everyone is lonely," she said simply. "Even those who say they are not." Lyra watched her daughter with awe. Sela was no longer just their child. She was becoming a guide for others lost in fear. One night, Sela came to her parents with a new dream. "There is a place," she said, "where all the songs meet. A garden in the sky. It is waiting for us." They checked the star maps. Nothing matched. But they trusted her. Weeks later, they found it. A nebula shaped like a blooming flower, its core pulsing with gentle energy. As they entered, the ship's systems quieted. The crew felt calm as if coming home. In the center floated a structure made of light and living wood. Part earth tree, part Xanthari crystal, part Veli songstone. It was a sanctuary built not by hands but by hope. Sela stepped onto its surface. The ground welcomed her. Vines curled around her feet like old friends. Flowers bloomed where she walked. "This is where I belong," she said. Lyra and Daniel understood. This was not an end but a new beginning. Sela would stay here, not alone, but as a guardian of the garden. A place where all species could come to heal, to learn, to remember they were never meant to be separate. They helped her build her first home, a small dome woven from starlight and willow branches. Dr. Elena stayed to study the healing properties of the garden. Elder Voss pledged Xanthari protection. Even the Veli sent singers to tend the songs of the trees. On their last night together, Daniel held Sela close. "Are you scared?" "No," she said. "You are in my heart. Mama is in my bones. I carry you always." Lyra kissed her forehead. "And we will visit. Often." As the ship prepared to leave, Sela stood at the edge of the garden, waving. She looked small against the vast nebula, but her light shone brighter than any star. Back on the bridge, Daniel took Lyra's hand. "Do you think we did the right thing?" She leaned into him. "Love is never wrong, even when it hurts, especially when it grows." They set a new course, not away from Sela, but toward the next place that needed healing. Because they had learned something precious. Love does not end when you let go. It spreads. And somewhere in the sky, a garden bloomed, tended by a child of two worlds singing a song that would one day bring the whole galaxy home. Months passed and Sela grew faster than any child had a right to. By the time she was 6 months old in human years, she could speak in soft melodic tones that blended Xanthari resonance with earth cadence. She laughed like Daniel, with a warmth that filled the room, and watched the stars like Lyra with eyes that seemed to understand their secrets. The crew adored her. Even the sternest guards melted when she reached for them with tiny glowing hands. But peace never lasts long in the galaxy. Rumors spread of a new threat, not raiders or rebels, but something older. The Void Weavers, a reclusive order of biopurists, had emerged from the dark rifts between galaxies. They believed all cross-species unions were abominations, violations of the natural order. They called Sela the Flaw, and they vowed to erase her. Lyra received the warning from a smuggler with a scarred face and a hidden conscience. "They're coming," he said, voice low. "Not to talk, to cleanse." Daniel held Sela tighter. "We can't run forever." "We won't have to," Lyra said, her voice calm but firm. "This ship is her home, and we will defend it." Preparations began in secret. The Xanthari upgraded their shields with organic alloys designed by Daniel, who used plant-based polymers to absorb energy blasts. Sela, sensing the tension, often sat quietly in the command center, her small hands resting on the console as if she could feel the ship's heartbeat. One evening, as Lyra braided Sela's hair, strands that shimmered between silver and chestnut, Daniel asked, "Do you think she knows what's coming?" "She feels it," Lyra replied. "But she is not afraid. She trusts us. That trust would be tested sooner than they expected. The Void Weavers arrived not with ships, but with silence. One moment, space was clear. The next, 3 obsidian vessels hung in the void like teeth in a black jaw. No hails, no warnings. Only a single pulse of dark energy that shut down half the ship's systems. Alarms blared. Lights flickered. Sela cried out, not in fear but in pain, as if the pulse had struck her directly. "They're targeting her biology," Dr. Elena shouted over the comm. "The heart-seed bond is reacting." Lyra scooped Sela into her arms. "Get her to the core chamber," she ordered Daniel. "It's shielded. I'll hold them off." "No," Daniel said, surprising even himself. "We stay together." Before Lyra could argue, Sela reached up and touched her mother's cheek. "Mama," she whispered, "let Papa help." Lyra hesitated, then nodded. Together they ran through the shaking corridors, the ship groaning around them like a wounded animal. Behind them, the Void Weavers launched boarding pods, sleek black capsules that latched onto the hull like parasites. Inside the core chamber, Daniel activated the emergency seals. Thick doors slid shut, locking them in a room lined with pulsing biocrystals. Sela's presence seemed to calm them. Their light steadied. Outside, the battle raged. Xanthari warriors clashed with Void Weaver enforcers, tall, faceless figures in armor that drank light. The Weavers moved with eerie precision, their weapons firing beams that unraveled DNA on contact. Elder Voss led the defense, his old doubts burned away by loyalty. "Protect the child," he roared, cutting down a Weaver with his energy blade. "She is the future." Meanwhile, in the core chamber, Sela began to glow, not with fear but with purpose. She floated gently from Lyra's arms, hovering in the center of the room. Her eyes turned pure gold. "What's happening?" Daniel whispered. "The heart seed," Lyra breathed. "It's awakening through her." Sela raised her small hands. The biocrystals flared to life, sending waves of golden energy through the ship's veins. Lights returned. Systems rebooted. Even the wounded crew felt strength return to their limbs. On the bridge, Elder Voss felt it too. "She's healing the ship," he said in awe. The Void Weavers sensed it as well and panicked. Their leader, a tall figure with eyes like dying stars, broadcast a message through every speaker. "Surrender the hybrid, or we will unmake your vessel atom by atom." Lyra stepped to the comm. "You will not touch her." "Then perish," the voice hissed. But before they could fire, Sela spoke. Not in words, but in a frequency that resonated through space itself. A song made of human lullabies and Xanthari star chants. The Void Weavers froze. Their armor cracked. Their weapons fizzled. For the first time, they felt something they had long forgotten. Empathy. One by one, they dropped to their knees. The leader's mask shattered, revealing a face etched with sorrow. We only wanted to protect purity," he stammered. "But we forgot that life is meant to grow, not stay still." Sela floated toward the view screen, her small form radiating peace. She reached out a hand and the golden light touched the Weaver leader. He wept. The battle ended not with destruction, but with understanding. In the days that followed, the Void Weavers did not leave. They stayed, asking questions, listening to Sela's songs, learning from Daniel's stories of Earth's messy, beautiful diversity. Even their rigid beliefs began to soften. Lyra watched it all with quiet pride. Her daughter had not just defended their home, she had changed hearts. But Daniel knew the galaxy would not always be kind. "We need to prepare her," he told Lyra one night as they watched Sela sleep, her chest rising and falling like a calm sea. "Not just to fight, but to lead," Lyra agreed. They began teaching Sela not only about Xanthari history and human culture, but about compassion, choice, and the courage to stand alone if needed. Sela absorbed it all, her mind sharp, her spirit gentle. One day she asked, "Am I human or Xanthari?" Lyra knelt before her. "You are both." "And neither." "You are Sela, and that is more than enough." As Sela's first birthday approached, the ship prepared a celebration unlike any before. Humans, Xanthari, former Void Weavers, and even visiting diplomats gathered in the Grand Hall. There were earth cakes and Xanthari light fruit, music from a dozen worlds, and laughter that echoed through the steel and crystal halls. Sela wore a tiny gown woven from starlight and cotton. Her hair braided with wildflowers Daniel had grown in the biogarden. She walked, not floated, through the crowd, greeting everyone by name, her smile lighting up faces old and young. Elder Voss presented her with a gift, a small, living crystal that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. So you always remember, he said, that you are loved by more than two worlds. Daniel gave her a book, handwritten, filled with stories of Earth, stars, and the day her parents chose each other against all odds. Lyra gave her a locket containing a drop of her own silver blood and a strand of Daniel's hair, proof that love can rewrite destiny. That night, as the party quieted, the three of them stood on the observation deck once more, Sela in Lyra's arms, Daniel's hand on her shoulder. Do you think she'll be safe? Daniel asked softly. No one is ever truly safe, Lyra replied, but she will never be alone. And that is the greatest protection of all. Sela looked up at the stars, then at her parents, and smiled. In her eyes, the future shimmered, not as a path set in stone, but as a garden waiting to be grown. And in that moment, Lyra and Daniel knew their story was not ending. It was only just beginning, through the child who carried their love across the stars and the hope that one day, all beings might see difference not as weakness, but as wonder. Years passed. The garden in the sky grew, fed by songs and starlight. Sela was no longer a child, but a young woman with eyes that held the calm of deep oceans and the fire of newborn stars. Travelers came from every corner of the galaxy. Wounded soldiers, broken diplomats, lost scientists, all seeking the peace only she could offer. She never turned anyone away. Meanwhile, Lyra and Daniel sailed the outer sectors not as royalty and botanist, but as healers. They carried seeds from Sela's garden, planting them on war-torn worlds. Where they grew, hatred softened. Where they bloomed, enemies sat together and talked. But the galaxy is vast, and darkness always finds a way to return. A new signal began to spread, not through comms, but through dreams. It whispered of a place beyond the edge of known space where time did not flow, and all life was frozen in perfect stillness. Some called it the silent cradle, others the end of change. Sela felt it first. One night her song faltered. The garden dimmed. Something is pulling at the roots of everything, she told her parents through a light comm. It wants to stop life from growing. Lyra and Daniel returned at once. When they arrived, Sela stood at the heart of the garden, her hands pressed to the oldest tree. Its leaves were turning gray. It's not a weapon, she said, voice tight with worry. It's a choice. A being made of pure order has awakened. It sees change as pain, so it wants to end all change forever. Daniel frowned. You can't stop life from changing. That's like trying to stop the sun from rising. It doesn't care, Sela replied. It will freeze every world, every heart, every thought until nothing ever grows again. They knew what they had to do. They would go to the edge, to the silent cradle, and face the being before it spread further. The journey took months. The ship sailed through dead zones where stars refused to shine. Comms went silent. Even the hum of the engine sounded tired. Daniel kept the biosystems alive with earth moss and xanthari lichen, whispering encouragement to the plants as if they were children. Lyra meditated, drawing strength from the memory of Sela's first cry. She knew this would not be a battle of weapons, but of will. Finally, they reached the cradle. It was not a planet, but a sphere of perfect glass floating in empty space. Inside, time stood still. A single figure sat at its center, tall, featureless, made of smooth white stone. It had no eyes, but it saw them. No mouth, but it spoke directly into their minds. You bring chaos, it said. You bring pain through change. I offer peace through stillness. Peace without change is death, Lyra answered. Death is clean, the being replied. Life is messy, loud, full of loss. Daniel stepped forward. Yes, life hurts, but it also loves. It creates, it hopes. You can't have one without the other. The being tilted its head. Prove it. Sela's voice came then, not from the ship, but from everywhere. She had sent her song ahead, woven into the fabric of space itself. It filled the void around the cradle, soft and strong, full of human lullabies and xanthari star chants and Veli healing tones. The glass sphere trembled. Memories flooded the being, not its own, but theirs. Lyra holding Daniel's hand during the heartseed ceremony, Sela's first steps, a soldier laying down his weapon to hug his enemy, a child planting a seed in dry soil and watching it grow. For the first time, the being felt something it had never known, longing. You choose pain? It asked, confused. We choose love, Lyra said gently, and love is worth the pain. The being was silent for a long time. Then slowly it reached out a hand, not to attack, but to touch the song. The glass sphere cracked. Light poured through the fractures. Time began to flow again inside. Flowers bloomed on the being's stone skin. Its form softened, becoming less perfect, more alive. "Teach me," it whispered. They named it Kalen, meaning awake in the old tongue. It left the cradle and joined them on the ship, learning about rain, laughter, and the way Daniel hummed while fixing broken pipes. It asked endless questions. Why do humans cry when they are happy? Why do Xanthari dance under twin moons? What does it feel like to hold a newborn's hand? Lyra and Daniel answered patiently. They showed Kalen how to plant a seed, how to listen to the wind, how to say, "I'm sorry and I forgive you." When they returned to the garden, Sela welcomed Kalen with open arms. Together, they wove its new understanding into the roots of the world tree. The gray leaves turned green again, then gold, then silver, shifting with every season of the soul. News of the silent cradle's awakening spread. Worlds that had given up on hope began to try again. Wars paused. Treaties were signed. Children planted gardens in the ruins of battlefields. But the greatest change was quieter. One evening, as the four of them sat beneath the world tree, Lyra, Daniel, Sela, and Kalen, Daniel looked at his family and smiled. "We didn't just save the galaxy," he said softly. "We reminded it how to live." Lyra took his hand, and we did it together. Sela leaned her head on Kalen's shoulder, the once still being now humming a clumsy but heartfelt version of an Earth lullaby. The garden glowed around them, alive with the sound of crickets, rustling leaves, and distant stars singing back. In the years that followed, the garden became more than a sanctuary. It became a school. Beings from every species came to learn not how to fight, but how to grow. Sela taught them to listen, to each other, to the land, to the quiet voice inside that says this is right. Daniel built greenhouses filled with plants from 100 worlds, showing how different roots could share the same soil. Lyra led meditations that helped warriors release their rage and diplomats find truth beyond words. Kalen, once the bringer of stillness, became the keeper of stories, recording every act of kindness, every moment of courage, so no one would forget how beautiful life could be. And though they traveled often, they always returned to the garden, because home was not a place, but a feeling, the feeling of being seen, accepted and loved exactly as you are. One night, as Sela walked the paths alone, she stopped beneath the oldest tree. A new seed rested in her palm, warm and pulsing. It was not from the garden. It was from somewhere farther, beyond even the silent cradle. She smiled. The galaxy was still full of mysteries, and she was ready. Back on the ship, Lyra and Daniel watched the stars. They were older now, their hair touched with silver and gray, but their hands still fit together like they were made for each other. "Do you ever wonder what comes next?" Daniel asked. Lyra looked at him, her eyes full of light. "As long as we're together, it doesn't matter." And in the quiet hum of the ship, in the distant song of the garden, in the pulse of a new seed waiting to bloom, they knew the story would never truly end. It would only keep growing, one heart at a time.